Welcome back to another surprisingly sunny day in the garden. It's February 2025. I've got my stirrup hoe here for scraping smaller weeds off of the surface, the trowel for digging the deeper ones out by the root, and the bucket to make sure we get all of that good green material back into the compost. This is a cool mushroom growing out of a tree branch that I'm using to line the garden bed. Kind of looks like a turkey tail to me, but if you are an expert, let me know in the comments. This one looks like a little piece of coral. I have no idea what kind of mushroom it is, but it's cute. The temperature has been hovering a little above freezing during the day and a little below freezing at night. So as I was digging this weed out, I felt like I was hitting rocks, but it was frozen soil underneath, so I kind of had to break it apart and get the root out of there. I typically try to avoid digging and do prefer using the stirrup hoe as often as possible. This prevents disturbing the soil structure, and that in turn helps organic matter to live in the soil. Once you start digging everything up and messing up their home, they don't do as well, and your soil also doesn't do as well. So I try to avoid that as much as possible. I do try to make things easy on myself and plant rows that are spaced enough for the stirrup hoe to easily fit in between, so I can just go right down the line and get out any little weeds as I go. And I'm pretty much just working my way from one side of the garden all the way over to the other. This area hasn't had anything planted in it since around October. Ideally, I would have mulched right after I harvested over here to protect the soil, but luckily we haven't had much rain, so erosion hasn't been much of a concern. This is the infinite potato box. It did not produce infinite potatoes, but that's it for this side. It started getting late in the day, but I felt pretty good that I got everything weeded out over here. And then the next day I started on the other side of the garden. A few years ago, it was my makeshift polytunnel that was kind of a precursor experiment to a greenhouse. And I'm so excited. This year, I think, is going to be the time to build the greenhouse, and I can't wait to show everyone that process. Hopefully it comes out good. I've never built a greenhouse before, so that'll be a learning experience for us all to either enjoy or endure together. I did let this side of the garden get a little more out of control, so that's quite a satisfying weed coming out. That's a big guy. And I use my trowel chopping method to try and knock off as much of that dirt. And then, of course, get the green material in the bucket to go back to the compost. Now, when it comes to something like the chard, I know that doesn't grow back by the root, so I can leave those roots in and they'll just decompose and add to the green material in the soil. And they also leave little tubes under the ground where the roots were, and that gives a great loose soil structure and makes space for new plants to come in. Over the 2 days it took to weed out this whole area, I probably filled up this little bucket 6 or 7 times, I'd guess. I didn't keep exact count, but the compost is getting very full at this point, and really looking forward to actually using the soil finally. I don't really bother pulling out the roots for the kale. I have had it grow back with just the stalk still in the ground, and it'll just sprout actually 2 or 3 new stalks out of the single stalk. But I think over winter it'll just die out and add to the organic material in the soil. For this bed, I found it a lot easier to go through and get all of the deeper roots out and the plants where I wanted to leave the roots in, and then just come back and go over the whole thing with the stirrup hoe. I start going over the whole thing again and raking up all of the green material and even some of the wood chips that kind of just got mixed in over time as I step in and out of the garden and kind of get some of that material out. This is a bag of mulch that I bought last year when I was reseeding the lawn that you see there in the background. And I had a bunch left over, so I figured why not use it? It saved me from having to buy a bale of straw this year. This whole process has gotten me even more excited for the growing season and all of the upcoming projects. I'm thrilled with how it looks, and thank you all so much for watching.